Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Corvids and Coffee podcast. I'm Liz, and I'm here with my sisters, Tori and Veronica. Say hi, guys.
Hey.
And today we're continuing our conversation on the movie Flow from 2024 and diving into the symbolism, character growth, and what the unforgettable ending means. But first, we've got some shoutouts and fun facts to kick things off. So, Tori, why don't you start us off?
Hey, first I want to say thank you to the creators of Flow for a beautiful film that we get to discuss on our podcast. It definitely sparks a lot of meaningful conversations about storytelling and also like deeper meaning of characters, even without dialogue. So thank you to the creators of Flow.
Thank you, guys. Veronica, you start us off next.
That was
And a
such
shout
a
out
delay.
to Blooming
You literally
Hearts
didn't say that.
and oh my god, Blooming Hearts and Roastery and Cafe in Milford, Mass. Even though I have not been to yet, their in-house
I think even
roasted
Veronica's doing the shout out.
beans and cozy, welcoming space nourish the soul and the senses. Whether we're broadcasting or just catching up, their coffee fuels our creativity and joy. Yes, I've had their coffee,
is
but I
good
haven't
coffee.
stepped foot in there.
I know. Next time we have to go to Recreo.
It's very.
Yeah.
Shout out to
I
Blooming
know we
Hearts,
should
but we
go
gotta go to
to the
Recreo.
outdoor
Even though there's
patio.
another place in Milford. There's another place in Milford that I want to try. I forget. I saw
Oh.
some other person posting about it. In Milford,
What
I
is
think
it
it was
called?
like
The
Coffee Bar or something.
I've been
I think it's
there.
Coffee Bar,
Yeah. They're
if I
really
had to
good.
guess.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
in a plaza across from the DQ.
Mm-hmm. Good place to
Oh,
try.
and actually, speaking of which, because well, what they have in common,
Oh,
Recreo
nice.
and Blooming Hearts, they're known for it's kind of like where they come from for the beans and stuff. Well, at least for some of them, like from Lima, Peru, and like Colombia, and Guatemala for Recreo. So here's a global sip of knowledge. South America, especially Brazil and Colombia, produce over half the world's coffee, and the region's high altitudes and volcanic soil give coffee its distinct richness. So every cup is in a little adventure from the Andes to your mug. And we've been to the Andes.
Nice.
We
Wasn't that one of
have,
our fun
actually.
facts that most of the coffee is made in Brazil in the world?
Yeah,
Hello,
it's like I
Lizzie.
think it's definitely one of the biggest producers, and it makes sense because it does have the
Now, didn't we did a fact?
like
I
the
forgot.
good soil and like the
I think
farms and
Brazil
whatnot.
was. Yeah, I think Brazil is one of
Oh,
the
for one of our
like
past
biggest
facts.
producers of coffee. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Tori, get us with our
Okay, and
animal
our animal fact to kind of lead us into this about the Secretarybird, which we talked about in part 1, that's in Flow. The Secretarybirds, they are incredible birds. They hunt snakes and strike with lightning fast kicks, which we don't really see in Flow, thankfully. In Flow, the Secretarybird carries some commanding presence and deep symbolism. So we'll get into that in just a bit.
Oh, and I do have a fun fact actually. What's kind of a scary fact about Secretarybirds is that they can stomp
Oh,
on
God.
snakes with 5 times their weight or 5 times the strength of their weight.
How's that even possible?
Wow.
Which makes sense for that scene with well, do you remember the scene in Flow where the Secretarybird
Yes.
gets their wing broken by another Secretarybird?
Yes.
And now it makes sense because
Yeah.
they could break a wing
How
pretty
big are
easily.
they in real life?
But
Are
yeah,
they like
let's,
really big?
Huh?
Are they really big?
How big are they in real
I
life?
think they're pretty tall, right?
I feel like they're pretty big. Yeah.
Let me
Or at
look it
least
up.
tall, yeah.
Let me see Secretarybird. Let's see Secretarybird height. What does Google have for us? Okay, so they're about 4 to 5 feet. Holy shit!
Ew. Oh, I was gonna say, let's all guess. Damn, Lizzie, I feel like you can't even hear me. You're just
Nope.
ignoring me. I said, let's guess. And then I was gonna say, wait, let's guess. And then you didn't. Yeah, that's okay. I thought that's how tall they were. I mean, in the film, the Secretary is obviously pretty tall, but hard to compare to just a capybara because I don't really know how big capybaras are. Now you know, I guess.
Capybaras are also
Also, I'm on
very large.
a walk in the
Giant
woods. So if you hear
rodents.
anything crazy, I'm getting abducted.
By a Secretarybird.
Oh,
Hello?
we still have it on here.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
I guess
heard
you
say
always
you're
don't
gonna
care
get
if I'm
abducted.
getting abducted. Okay, you
I
have
said,
to be like,
are you going to be abducted by a Secretarybird?
Maybe that'd be exciting, but I don't think they can carry me. Okay. Anyway, into the film.
We won't let you get abducted.
All right. So we're gonna talk about. Well, I mean, you have the recording, but you have my location. I'm just on the lake anyway.
Yes,
okay,
we
but anyway,
do.
so let's talk about the
Good fun.
characters
I know where you are.
that stuck with us, especially Secretarybird, like we were just talking about, the black cat, obviously, and the whale, which we didn't really get into in part 1. So, the Secretarybird, what does their sacrifice symbol? So, I was kind of confused, I guess, by the Secretarybird's like quick sacrifice for the black cat. I thought it was like, I guess it's not a super long film, but early on, the Secretarybird was like willing to risk it all just for the cat, which was funny to me.
Yeah, because he was definitely curious about him at first, but then it was just like sacrificing, especially like leaving his flock basically, or being shunned from his flock because it's like
yeah, it's a pretty big sacrifice for the birds. So I mean and like we looked online a little bit, like definitely, and I think maybe that sacrifice hints at kind of like not end of world, but when people are in like bad situations, who they're willing to stick up for or advocate for. So like obviously the Secretarybird was like, don't kill him, he's just a cat, and the rest of the group was like free food, and Secretarybird obviously stood up for
they're
the
like,
cat, and
this guy's not our
just,
friend. Free food, free
yeah, and
food.
they chose yeah, they chose a cat. He chose the cat, or she, I don't know. The other thing is there's no gender in this, which is also interesting. But the Secretary Bird
No,
It
it's
is.
chose
just
the
Secretary
black cat.
Bird. Yeah,
Yeah, we
and then
don't
they
know the
got his
gender of any
wing
of the
broken
animals.
for it.
Yeah, which I thought
No.
was
There
kind of
is,
crazy because
yeah,
I was like, that was so soon. What, Veronica? You're
It.
cutting
yeah,
in.
so,
Yeah. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you. You just said no. All you said was no.
No, no, no. Because I was about
Yeah,
to agree. Like, no, it's interesting that that there is no genders to these animals, along with no dialect. You don't really like. You don't get any character development from the actual characters. It's all completely action based, and it is interesting that, like, yes, the Secretary Bird chooses the cat almost instantly within like the first scene of them meeting. It is. It's weird.
maybe he
Hmm.
knew his family was toxic
Maybe.
and would eat anything.
I
I
guess
mean,
No,
so, and
but
I
it
guess
is.
all of
It's
these
like
animals
in
are a little
those.
bit of.
But it is. It's like it's interesting. Like in those times of like you said, like, and because does kind of like prelude to like an end of like an apocalyptic
Hmm. Yeah,
time period. Who people are willing to like stand up for and what they're willing to do in times of
and even if
mass
it's like a
destruction, mass
stranger.
chaos.
Yeah,
Right.
versus like
I
standing up
feel
for a
like
stranger who
definitely.
needs your help versus like your family or not family, maybe even
Hmm.
just
Well,
community or like what you've known, I guess.
Right.
well, also, I think like crisis definitely forces people into a certain mindset, and it kind of shows
Hmm.
like who like kind of who your friends and family are. And this is definitely like a found family sort of situation, and they all are there for each other, despite their differences.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of
But yeah,
if
let's.
anyone's ever read, you guys probably haven't read, but the book They Both Die in the End. It's like a dystopian society where you find out when you're gonna die, like the day of or whatever, and they also have some like interesting storylines, kind of like that, like people finding like a stranger to spend their last day with versus their family, because obviously these animals don't know what's gonna happen like during the film. So it's kind of like they're just
Right.
choosing
Yeah, like they don't know if it's gonna
these
be the end.
characters for like the unforeseen future, so like however long that may be.
I have to read that book at some
And then the
point. I know you brought
whale
it up last
is
time.
another. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I didn't love it, but it's like the storyline is good and like the idea of it, which again is kind of like end of world kind of thing. Not end of world, I guess, but
Hmm.
like end of life.
True.
The other character I thought was interesting is the whale, which we don't see a lot of in the film. And it's funny because like they
No,
only
the
come up
whale
in certain
doesn't get
parts,
seen much.
and it's funny because then they're at the end. It's like a
And,
big thing with the whale being
Well,
there.
yeah, and then it dies.
Yeah,
well, it kind of hints
which is
like
symbolic, I
I
guess, on
want
its
your
own.
interpretations on this.
Yeah.
Well, I want your interpretations because it's not stated outright, but there's like the scene like where the cat finds the whale at the end of the flood after it's drained and it looks like it's dying, but then we see the whale kind of, or maybe the same whale, maybe a different whale at the end. And I want to know, like, do you guys think it's a different whale and it's a sign of rebirth, or do you think it's the same whale and that,
Oh,
things can be salvaged after kind of a storm of different problems and issues, that there can be a freedom at the end of it?
I think it's
Like,
the
how do you guys
same whale. I
interpret it?
don't have any kind of idea that it's a different whale because I guess maybe, but we only see one whale in the thing. I think it's kind
It
of
didn't
like a
just seem like a
hopeful
whale.
message, wherever I guess the end is kind of the ending is like more uplifting and like hopeful than anything.
Hmm.
Like they don't have to go through it alone this time. That even if the flood does come back, they can survive it together.
Yeah, it's also funny that the whole film in general, I like was like, oh, is this Noah's Ark? Like at the very beginning. But then the idea that we don't
Yeah,
that
that
there's
part
multiples
seemed
of all
like
these animals is like funny. So then it's also like, oh well, not all of them survive. Or are they all trying to go to something? And then the whale kind of reminded me kind of the ship, almost like Noah's Ark. Like obviously there's no whale in the Ark, Noah's Ark, like they're on the boat. Um, but
Right.
yeah, it's kind of weird,
I
kind of
really
like
think
bringing
the
everybody
whale.
together in a sense. The whale.
How selfish of them.
Also, the whale
I
helps
kind of
the
saw
cat.
the death. Yeah, I kind of
Yeah,
saw the
he
death of the
saves her
whale
from
at the
drowning.
end. I kind of saw the death of the whale at the end as like almost like a because the flood during the flood, obviously the sea animals like thrived and the whale was
Yep.
Oh
one
yeah.
of them. But then at the end
Mm.
you see the death of the whale. It's almost like a new world
Mm.
order. You know what I mean? The flood
Well,
is
this is
Yeah.
gone, and as a result, like the thing that was able to take over the world or take over, the environment at that time is now gone. It's being chased out of its own,
Yeah, I didn't think about
you
that
know.
actually. Yeah,
it's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
that's a good.
I mean, you
Yeah, I
talk
never thought
about
about
like
that.
environmental change, like they're talking about, how like climate change and all that good stuff. And it's like,
Hmm.
how much longer do we really have before our civilization is wiped clean and
And like
nature
start
takes
over
over
almost.
again?
Yeah,
Right.
and then like a reset
That's
kind of
kind of
because
how
then
I
the
took it.
flood goes away.
Replicate like
Yeah, that's interesting. I
Right,
didn't
and
think
then
about that.
and then
the
new
beginning
life
of
can
the
come back in. So it's like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind
a
of like
reset almost.
fall of
starting over.
civilizations and then a restart.
Yeah, where it kind of just like, everything was back to like nature kind of taking over, and
Right.
which a
Yeah.
flood
The other
definitely
thing I
seemed to
thought
do
was
because there were the modern elements and then they're wiped.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
the other
flood
thing
is
that was
definitely like a
interesting,
reset.
totally, and like obviously connecting to climate change. The thing that interesting to me was that there's no humans too, which obviously like on purpose. But then it kind of makes you think like, when does this take place? Because obviously we don't know because there's no humans present.
Well, you got like some glimpse that there were humans at one point because you guys remember where the
Yes.
cat's
Yeah,
first
trace.
home was, and
Yeah.
then you see the
Yeah.
Buddhas everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, okay, this is Southeast Asia, somewhere in Southeast Asia,
Yep.
however many years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then
And it
it
definitely
makes you
seems
think like,
like
when did this
not
take
too
place?
far
Yeah.
back, but like not too far back, but because it does look like the architecture looks pretty like well put together. There are some advancements with
Yeah,
like
and I
the
think it's supposed to
glass
make you
and the
think
wood
of like, how
making
close
and the
is
statues.
the end? Yeah, like almost
Right,
like
and
how
like you
close is
looked at,
this
and
like to the
did
end
you
when it's gonna
guys
happen?
notice like the breeds of dogs? They weren't like wild. They all looked
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
they're
they're all
domestic.
domesticated.
domestic.
Yep.
What is it? There
Yeah,
was
and obviously they were because they were
the
very
Shiba
smart.
Inu,
Yeah,
the
there was a Shiba
Labrador.
Inu.
What other ones were there?
There was like
Uh,
yeah, it was
German
like
Shepherd, I thought.
breeds that you could
A lab.
recognize. It was like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
breeds
Yeah,
that you could recognize that are very popular. So it
yeah.
was like
It
clear
was
that
like a
like the
lab, a
fall of
German Shepherd,
civilization
Sheena
hadn't,
Inu.
yeah, it's like it was very clear that the fall of civilization hadn't happened that long,
Hmm.
but long
So yeah,
enough that
so
It's
no
definitely
human was surviving.
yeah, it definitely seems like it.
yeah, so
And
that's
yeah,
interesting that like,
it does
yeah, the
feel like
connection of
yes,
climate
and that
change and
might have
how
been.
close we are to something like this.
It definitely feels like they might have like kept it on purpose to not like keep you guessing about the time period. But like you said,
Probably.
the end could kind of come at any time, and I guess that's kind of the point of it with that part. Not all the whole
Right.
part. That would be really depressing if that was the whole part of it. But
I mean, it definitely was. It was very evident that the creator did not want to have human presence in this movie, but that wanted to let you know this is something that could have happened in this world.
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah.
I would say one of the scenes that definitely stood out to me, which oh my god I cried at, was the Secretarybird's, I guess you could say, sacrifice or death. Because when I was
Oh
watching it,
yeah, that one. I forgot about that part.
he said he looked it up on Reddit, the interpretation. He said this is basically where the bird dies, and I just was like, oh my god, no, like why?
I mean,
I
yeah, but
know
that's the
with the
thing. The
bird
Secretary
broken
Bird
wing.
makes so much sacrifice to me, which is funny. Like, what is that supposed to
Yeah,
be or represent in our world?
Yeah, I
true.
definitely thought it was death because Chris and I like kind of looked at it too. We're like, oh, it's like meeting God.
Well, yeah, because of floating, and then the
Yeah,
cat
definitely the
choosing to
light, like
stay.
following the light and whatever.
Right.
Because the cat started to go, but then it was just like, no, it's like I still have unfinished business. But the Secretary Bird was like, broken wing, couldn't really do much for like to do much like as a bird, like not having that the being able to fly again. And in
Hmm.
this case, they were able to fly off in the end, which is actually really beautiful. That was such a
The bird.
beautifully animated part. I was Yeah, the
Wait, what are you
bird.
talking about?
It's the Secretary Bird. The Secretary Bird. So when
Oh,
the
yeah.
cat meets the Secretary Bird at the highest point, like leaves the boat and meets him at the highest point, and the Secretary Bird's just kind of looking off into the distance, and then they both kind of get sucked up into this like sort of like immersive like universal moment where they're just both kind of floating in the air, but the Secretary Bird ends up flying up while the cat remains and floats back down to the ground to continue its journey.
Hmm.
That's it. You're like,
Yeah. I don't know. The Secretary Bridge is kind of a confusing part to me. I don't fully understand.
Understand
I
it.
think all of like what the whole sacrifice. It's like obviously because there's no dialogue. I think maybe because the Secretary Bird is a little bit more like reserved and mysterious. It's kind of hard to tell like what the heck the purpose is. But I feel like it just
Well, I
has a
think that's
connection
also the
to
point.
making a sacrifice. Yeah.
But I think that's also the point. Like the bird can, and its actions can signify different things to different people. The interpretation's open for
Mm,
evaluation because, like you said,
true.
birds reserved. There's no dialect. We're not really sure what period of time this is. There's no human influence. It's like it can be observed many different ways.
That's true. And it's definitely there was one way I think where it was like I was looking on Reddit for interpretations of that scene, and there was one where it's like something kind of linked to mythology, or it sort of represents like a
mm.
spiritual guide, like maybe the bird was always meant to kind of guide them on their way, and maybe only part with them at a certain point to kind of let them continue the journey alone, because that's all it's like it led them to the point they needed to be to figure out and work the rest of it out together.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that because also the bird was the one like steering the boat a lot, like physically steering the boat a lot. So
And if you think about
That
it,
could make
leaves
sense.
during like a very pinnacle moment too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's like right at the height of like where like the cat gets stranded by the boat,
Yep.
ends up finding its way back. Like, oh my god, I got so sad. Especially, oh my
Height.
god,
It's
yeah,
at the height of the peril. It's at the height of the chaos that the bird leaves, because that's the point. It was meant to bring these animals to the ultimate challenge of their life and then leave.
like kind of like seeing. I almost think it's like, when you have like when you have some sort of tragedy or really tough hardship where you're at your lowest point in life, and it really kind of it has to force you to either, try and bring yourself out of it and make it a turning point and say, this is how I'm going to fix it, or this is how I'm going to get out of it. It's like, it's kind of like teaching them, it's like, well, you need to work together and like rely on each other when things get tough like this, or to pull out into your own strength. And the cat definitely changed a lot with like not being as like, such a loner, and like being able to work together with these other animals and come out of its shell, and definitely like let go of that fear of like getting, I guess, kind of like getting close to other animals, or getting or having those like kind of relationships, and transforming
Right.
into somebody who's a stronger person because of their journey, if that makes sense. But yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
it
let's
does.
reflect on the characters for personal reflections, like who we are in times of chaos. Like, who did you guys would you say you feel like the most like for like a character in this film? Like, who were you most like in? Would you be most like in when time gets messy, or like the flood, or like a disaster kind of thing? Whether
Well,
like an actual physical thing, or more like metaphorically in a sense.
they're so cute. There's like a thing of them. They're so cute. Sorry, I had to see them.
Yeah, like we
I
saw
don't
some fish,
know.
and then the duck was whipped up by the herring.
I would think either the capybara or the Labrador, because I feel like I would also want to save all my friends, even though it was a stupid idea. I'd be like, "Oh, it's
Yeah,
okay, everyone can
yeah, your
come.
friends are stupid.
Like, let them on," and then they're like
Yeah, it's like
stupid, and
everyone
they're
get on the
like, "Come
boat.
on, do stuff." Yeah,
Like
I'd be
ruin
like, "Yeah, let's go
everything.
save
Like,
the
oh, come
dogs."
here.
I know. More
I
fish,
mean,
more
I
baby
would too. I would
fish.
save the dogs. You got to take a picture of the
So
baby
maybe the
fish.
dog. I can't really see them that well. They're so cute though. Yeah, I guess the
Yeah,
dog, or maybe the capybara. Like, also true. Like, again, the capybara also welcomes everyone to the boat. You know?
Mm.
kind of brings them along and tells. It's like kind of like with the lemur, like being like, "Hey, you got to get on the boat," like taking his stuff, bringing it out, and be like, "We got to get
Yeah, try to
going."
save other
Like kind of
people.
being the one that keeps them
Yeah.
together. What
What
about
about
you,
you?
Veronica?
I don't, because I'm like thinking like usually during codes who I am, and I'm usually the one who's, I think, like more so on the outside, like as auxiliary support, running labs, or like, going to get blood supply, or like I'm like the one usually organizing the medications.
I'd say you'd be like the capybara then.
No, because that's calm. It
Yeah, but you
feels for me
also,
that
but
I
you are
need things to
but you're
do.
doing. Oh, sorry.
So I
Go ahead.
think like, yeah, because the capybara is just a calm presence. He's not really like organizing
Well,
or
he is
taking control of
organizing. I mean,
anything in general.
he's the one with the boat. He's the one who got everyone to go on the boat. He's the one who starts out with the boat, right, Lizzie? Is that right? I forget. Isn't the capybara the
Yeah, he
one
does
with the
start out
boat
with the
at the
boat.
originally? And he like gets the
Right,
black
but
Yeah, he
cat,
kind of
then he
wasn't
he's
gets
at the
the
very
steering it or
lemur.
beginning
doing
during the work.
anything. Yeah.
Like he's just like, hey, like get under the like the little pocket of the ship to like guide from the rain. Like, hey, like get over here, bring the lemur stuff on board to kind of get the ball rolling
Yeah,
and
but
get everyone to
it's been a little
safety.
while since I've seen Flo, because I saw it when it first came out. But as I remember, didn't he, like, other animals saw what the capybara did and they followed his lead? I don't think he necessarily was like, "Hey, get under the ship." He was like, "I'm doing this. Look what I'm doing."
Yeah, I guess so. He did.
I'd
He
say in
did
a
like try
way.
to coax the cat to come under the thing with them,
Mm.
because the cat was like when it was like raining or whatever. But
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true.
he was kind of like afraid of him, like wasn't sure about him, and he's just like,
Mm.
it's fine, like come over under here, like you don't want to be out in the rain.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then like even when
the
he
lemur's
fell
pretty
from like
useless,
the
I
top of the
think.
mast of the ship, or huh?
I said the
Wait,
lemur's
what?
pretty useless in my opinion. Not useless, but
Oh,
he's
it's
not like
not
a
for the
pivotal
lemur.
character. I mean, he just
No, he
cares about
isn't
his
a pivotal
things.
character. I mean, he cares about his items and he cares about his people.
He cares
Yes,
what people
and
think
he ends
about
up
him,
learning
or
as
animals,
they.
I should say.
But because if you see in the end, he like rejoins his people because he's like,
Yeah.
"This is what I know."
But then he realizes
Yep.
that they only like him for his stuff and what he can provide. But the cat,
Oh yeah,
the
he does come back.
Labrador,
That's
and
true.
the capybara actually like him as he is, flaws and all, like
Mm.
as who the lemur is. And I would say I'm kind of like the lemur with that I am a little bit materialistic with all my trinkets I keep, like the jelly caps I showed earlier, the coffee bean and stuff. I do like
That you
collecting,
just got.
but I know that, that I
I do like
value the
collecting.
people in my life. at the end of the day. But yes, I do collect a lot. You guys already know this. And I would
Yeah.
say kind of like the
I don't think
capybara
you'd
more
be
so
attached
now,
to
like
them
for
though if
how I
there was a
handle
flood
things.
or something.
Well, no, I want the most important things. Like, if I could name one thing off the top of my head, definitely. I know it's gonna sound stupid for the first thing I grab in a flood situation, but I would say family photos
Well,
because
yeah,
I
you
think
Yeah.
a
can't
lot of those
replicate
get.
those.
Yeah, and it's just like you might not even have duplicate. Like for mom and dad, for all the old photos they have, like there would be no replacing that. Like that's you're kind of like it's a priceless thing I could not replicate. Yeah. So I am materialistic in that way, or I never want to let go of my photos, both digital and physical copies,
Right.
because they're like a reflection of everything we've been through and everything, all the fun, sad, and in between moments in life. I never want to get rid of them.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was gonna say to our listeners, who are you in the chaos? Tag us at Corvids and Coffee and tell us your flow character energy. And also let's unpack this
Flow
ending.
character
So
energy.
the Secretary's bird. So we already
You
character
said the
energy.
flow
Hey,
character
some of us have
energy.
it's yeah, it's like when you have like a spirit animal. I would say my spirit animal might be the lemur.
True, which one's your spirit animal? So yeah, we talked a lot about the secretary
Huh?
bird's flight and the whale. We talked about those parts of the
Mm.
ending. You said the puddle
What
reflection
about the
was you like
puddle
coming looping
reflection?
back.
Yeah, because the beginning, when the cat looks into the puddle, it's just the cat by itself right before the flood. And then there's the ending
Right.
where they're all together, like in a group, they're all huddled together, kind of reunited as a family, and kind of just, I guess, ready for whatever the rest of their journey as just their new, as their new kind of group together. And I think it is a good kind of like, I think a lot of people might see like, oh, that could be sad because what if there's another flood and what if they lose another one of them? But I think it's definitely like they went through it the first time and now they can do it together again because they're stronger now because of it.
Yeah, also I think it has to do with like your chosen family or whatever, right? Like your support, like you finding people who actually support you, which all of them went through that experience together, so they're more like a joined group.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah,
true.
definitely.
I think that's another
And
message
you
from it.
guys
Oh my
and
god, these
I
baby
joined the group.
fish.
Tori and the baby fish.
The baby fish are eating. Me and the baby fish, they're like eating little like algae on the surface. So cute.
Oh, are they going like they're doing like the
Yeah,
little
they're like I
suction
can
cup
see them
around?
everywhere. There's tons of them here. I hope that bird wasn't eating them earlier.
Probably was.
The hair
They're
just
so
comes up and just
yeah, they're rid of the
snatch them up.
surface. They're easy targets.
No, baby fish, run away! I mean, swim away, not run. You can't
Nice.
run. Fish can't run unless you're the fish in the beginning of time where your evolution and you end up learning to
It's
walk
true, folks.
on land. There's some
Oh,
science
okay.
for you kids. But yeah,
Well, I think that really
let's
pretty
do our
much
mental
wraps up
health.
the flow. Yeah,
Oh wait,
the
I
movie
want to do a
flow.
mental health tip.
Yeah, I said the flow. Just talking about the movie.
Oh yeah, so life flows forward whether we're ready or not, and like the characters, we can't always control the currents, but we can choose how we respond with like grief, change, and healing, and none of it's linear. It's always it's always going its own like ups and downs, and it's
Mm,
just it's never the same.
that's
We're all
true.
Very
floating
true.
forward.
It's an appropriate title.
Yeah. So thanks for
Even though I
Did
thought
joining
the
anyone
us
cat's
know?
on this
name was gonna
journey.
be Flo. I thought the cat's name was gonna be
I
Flo in the
know, me
beginning.
I
too.
thought I literally
I was like,
watched
oh,
a
the
cinema
cat Flo.
therapy episode on this. Well,
What's
you
the
guys should
therapy?
watch the cinema therapy episode. It's a YouTube channel with um it's a pair of friends. One is a therapist and then the other one's a movie director, and they talk about movies and their meanings behind it. And they were talking about
Oh,
flow, and I watched the episode recently. Shout out to cinema therapy. I've loved watching them forever, and they talk about it. And Alan Seawright, who's a director, keeps joking with John the therapist that he's just like, "Oh yeah, the cat's name's Flo," and he's like, "That's not that's not the name. It's just cat.
it
It's just
is. It
cat is
definitely
cat.
is. There's no other
Capybara is
character names.
capybara."
It's just Flo.
And
Flo and friends.
it
Flo and
no,
Friends.
it's just they're all
That's what
literally
the
just
title
their
should be.
animal
Flo and
names.
friends.
That
So
sounds like a
deceiving.
bad
And then
book
they
to introduce a
then
period.
they then they
Oh
watch
God.
the movie and they're like, what the heck? Flo and
Also,
friends.
But
didn't this
Good
movie win
title.
an
Oh,
award of some sort?
it did.
yes,
It did.
actually, I can
I
bring up
forget
the
what one
award
it
that
is.
it
Let me
won.
fact
It
check.
won. It was one of the first indie films to win, like I think, best animated award. Let me look it up really quick. And it didn't have much of a budget. Let me see. This budget is
Which
actually
is
Much of a
also
budget. I'm pretty sure it was like
fascinating.
I'm
small.
pretty sure it was a multi-million-dollar
So
budget.
it was over the span of what?
How much did Flo
How much
cost
was
to
the budget?
produce?
So it cost about 3.7, approximately 3.7 million, But a lot of like
See?
bigger companies,
But
like
no,
Because I
but you
thought it'd
think
be
of
budget.
no, but
like the Mario movie.
But you think about other movies, yeah, that's like nothing. That's nothing in comparison to other movies.
So I can compare it to the Mario Brothers movie that came out like 2 years ago. That had a
Okay.
budget of 100 million. So them
Oh my
doing, and
god.
they probably did it in like half the time for animation. But the fact that Flow,
How
like,
much did it make? How
Uh,
much did it make box office?
let me see, it made about
You know, it's because they didn't have
36
any
million.
voices they
So it
needed.
made back like
Oh my
1 million
god!
more.
But
I
do
know,
you
right?
see that? It only cost
I
3.1
know, it's
million to
crazy.
make. I say only, like if I had a million, it'd be great. But it cost
Yeah, right?
3.1 million to make, and it literally made 10 times that.
Yeah, it's
And
crazy.
Because you
definitely,
said
oh,
36
and
million, Lizzie?
also for those who don't know, for Flow, it's produced by a Turkish animated studio,
Yeah. It's because they didn't have
and
so many
it won
voice character actors.
Best animated feature.
They saved money.
Okay, but like still, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
also
I am
that's the
just
other
kidding.
crazy part. There was no dialect. There was no
Yeah.
names. There
No
was
dialogue at
pretty much
all,
no
no
character
names.
development directly from the character. So that's crazy that a movie could make that much money,
Mhm.
and then like I don't know. It's just it's crazy.
But yeah, it was definitely one of
It's
the.
like
It's
good
definitely one of the bigger.
storytelling makes profit itself.
Well, I
Yeah,
also
true.
I've watched only like I'd say one other show or one other kind of thing of media as of recently that actually is really good without like really much dialogue, and it's called Primal. It's about a caveman and a dinosaur, and it's all just like maybe sounds like grunts from the like caveman and then like animal sound effects, and it's actually really moving. It's crazy how well they do with it. So if you ever get a chance to watch it, it's another
Oh,
good
I think I've
example of
seen
like.
clips of it on like TikTok and stuff.
Yeah, it's Spear and Fang. That's the name of the characters. Let me
I
actually see
might
if
have
I can
seen it
find it
then.
because I watched it. I need to watch it again. It's what is it? Gendy Tarkovsky's Primal, and there's like 2 seasons out, and it's really good. The animation's also really good too. But yeah,
Nice.
for Flow winning best animated feature film, it's like for I think at like for the Academy Awards is definitely like amazing, and I really hope that more independent films like that or independent animated films especially get more recognition like that, and also get the budgeting that they need for it to produce
Mm-hmm.
more amazing work like that.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be cool.
definitely.
I like a good animated
Great.
film. But yeah, so thanks for joining us on this journey through Flow. And if you enjoyed the two-part series, follow Corvids and Coffee on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your
Oh yeah.
podcasts. And leave a review, share the episode with someone who might love it too. And tag us at Corvids and Coffee with your favorite character, or I'd say quote, but we're gonna scratch that because there's no dialogue, or moment from Flow. Or your favorite character.
Yeah.
Quote. Wait, quote the capybaras like noises. Quote.
Just like that. I can't do it.
Yeah, whatever it is, I don't know. Oh, the
Yeah.
lemur screams. Just like what is it? They
Oh
put
yeah, I
like
forgot. Lemurs
asterisks
are
like
Like a
lemur
chirp.
scream. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's mine.
Oh no, it's like wait, like those subtitle like
Yeah, when
memes where
they're
it goes
like
like cries in Spanish.
Yes. Screams and lemur. Sorry, that's what it should say. Screams and lemur.
screams and lemur.
Screams and lemur. I don't know. I guess squeaks and Gabby Bear.
Squeaks and
Yeah,
Runs
squeaks
in
and
capybara.
cat. I know.
capybara.
I know. Didn't you say that the capybara they don't use real capybara noises?
No, they actually use
They
a baby
don't?
camel. They use a baby camel to
Yeah, it's
have a
weird.
contrast
That's
to
messed
the
A
up.
other
baby
characters
camel.
with a
So
lighter.
they have to pay for the baby camel. That probably
It was
costs a
so
lot of money.
cute.
That's where their budget came in.
No, they went to the zoo
Actually, the
for
baby
the.
camel's noise cost 1 million alone.
Yeah, that was one. That was a third of the budget.
1/3 of the
Can you
budget.
Getting a
imagine? So
camel.
like renting out the baby
Yeah.
camel was
That
actually
They're like,
like one
okay,
third of the
so
budget
they're like, okay, what's the budget? And they're like, we only need 1 million for baby camel noises.
for the baby camel noises just by itself.
the
Just
baby
that.
Yeah,
camel is
that's
just
it.
like on a yacht somewhere.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
that'd be
like pay for a
hilarious.
Never
baby
do the
camel is like
desert ever
vacation.
again. Oh my god, that'd be so funny. It's just at a spa. It's just like I get. It's like I owe this movie my life. Now I can make
It's
millions.
And
ridiculous.
as always, our unofficial sponsor, if you're in Milford, stop by
Wait,
Blooming
no,
Hearts.
yeah,
Yeah, when did they get the
They're the
heart?
real
they're
There's
really
MVPs.
go to. So you
They're
might see
Lizzie's.
me.
They're Lizzie's unofficial sponsor. They sponsor Lizzie.
I love you guys.
yeah,
If
seriously.
the
Yeah,
owners
they
of
they, they do love Lizzie.
Blooming Hearts are listening, I absolutely
You
love
say
your
quarters of
cafe,
coffee.
and you guys always make me feel so welcome there. And I hope you'll be open to doing an interview at some point. I know they're very busy, so but I love your coffee, and we love your coffee, and yeah,
It's just Lizzie
I love
talking
going in there.
about.
It always makes my day.
I have had their coffee. It's good. I don't hang
I've
out
had
there.
their
Lizzie
coffee. I
hangs out
haven't
there on a
stepped foot
daily
in there yet.
basis. Yeah, Lizzie hangs out there on a daily
Yeah,
basis.
I think it's more that Lizzie is
Like
their
80%
sponsor
of the
at this
week.
point.
We need to
Either
get
way,
sponsors. I
fueled
need
by
to actually. I
coffee.
really want us to get Life
I
is
need
Good
your
as our sponsor,
sponsors.
or a nice coffee brand.
I me
Yeah, we
too.
need
Oh my
sponsors,
god.
guys. So I'm gonna reach
I
out to
like honestly
sponsors.
just somebody send us coffee. Somebody send us a bag of coffee beans, please.
Coffee.
I need
We
coffee.
actually
I'm
don't
about to
really
run out of
care who it
coffee.
is.
I know. I don't care.
We're
I
gonna
don't care who you are. Preferably, what's it called, Lucy?
guys.
Somebody
Preferably,
send us a bag of coffee, please.
no,
Wait. Can we
no.
open it like an MSPCA commercial? No, or the Arms of an Angel. In the
But
arms.
it's just Tori with an
Sorry,
Yeah,
empty
that's
bag
right.
of
and we
coffee
just have no
beans.
my
Oh, in the
empty
arms
jar. Yeah,
of a coffee
I
bean.
don't care what coffee.
Oh my
I'll
god, Jesus.
Guys, we're gonna die if we don't get coffee.
preferably,
You need to send
preferably
us bags.
ethically.
Listen,
What's it
listen,
called?
listen.
Ethically sourced or whatever. But if not, I'll
Ethically
take
sourced.
whatever.
Ethically
Yeah,
sourced.
no,
Preferably,
Tori.
but if not,
No,
I'll take it.
Ethically
Tori.
sourced, not ethically sourced, whatever.
Ethically sourced. Ooh, maybe something
As
fancy,
long as it's
international.
fruity.
As long
Free
as it
coffee.
is sent
We'll
to my
take free coffee.
address.
Even Dunks or Starbucks will also take free coffee.
What'd you
We've done
say?
Alright,
some we've
this
done
is
some
spiraling
advertisement for you
quickly.
Oh,
guys.
good.
Veronica, do you want to sign us
Yeah,
off?
let's wrap it up.
Yeah, hold on, I gotta find the notes. Hold on.
Find your phrase
Oh
ending.
wait.
We've
And
lost
as
the plot.
shut up, Tori. And as always, stay curious, stay kind, and stay tuned.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.